Paladins' newest champion has just been revealed, and that is Seris, our newest support champion. Although first looks and first opinions you might think perhaps she's not a support because she's got this sort of very shadowy, dark, almost evil attire about her. Her eyes are completely hidden by a cloak, and she just generally looks like something more like a necromancer or a dark sorceress, or perhaps even a succubus with almost demonic skin but a very human form. Anyway, today I'm going to cover very quickly what was shown on the dev preview of this champion, cut down to just basically this champion and its abilities, and some thoughts on how they're going to be in the game. As always, once the update goes live onto the public test server, I'll be playing some games with my subscribers on Discord, and if it's not too late, on a stream. So be sure to check out the PTS. You can Google Paladins PTS if you want to get it downloaded ready. Anyway, let's crack on with this character. So for me, the appearance doesn't just stop at the outward appearance. It actually gets better once you go into first person. She's actually holding some sort of like orb on a chain. It's almost like holding a lantern, but the orb is spinning around with this shadowy mana sort of leaking out of it. And that transfers over into the first person view. You can see it spinning around on your left hand side, and on your right hand you have sort of like finger tip thimble, like sharp thimbles that are almost like claws, and all this sort of shadow sorceress-esque jewelry over your hand. It just looks very cool, and it's got sort of shadowy mana leaking out of the right hand as well. And actually once you reload, you sort of pull shadows out of the orb, and it's just probably the best looking weapon in the game currently, and some of the best animation work I've seen so far. Now let's get on with the nitty gritty of what this champion can do and what their abilities are. So first off, their health is 2600 HP at base. Now we didn't see what the loadout they were using in the test map, so it could be buffed up, but that's the health they had on the preview. The left click is this sort of soul orb that she fires out, and almost like a ghost little like spirit floats out, and it's almost like a floaty thing that floats out from in front of you out of your right hand. These each do 210 damage base, and these are blast or area damage opposed to direct damage. And why? Because they float straight through enemies and go to the next enemy and keep traveling until they hit a wall or stop. These orbs also stack onto an enemy, and you can stack up to 4 times, and this goes straight onto the Q ability, which is Ren's Soul, which once you have the stacks on enemies, if you hit that Ren's Soul, then it does 100 damage per every soul that you have on an enemy. Now the charges do seem to drop relatively quickly, so you can't sort of spam it around, get 4 stacks on absolutely everybody and just wait. It seems that you have to get them if they're in an area. You can get stacks on loads of people and then use a Ren's Soul. But also worth mentioning now, because these all link up, is that one of the legendary abilities basically gives you more maximum HP once you use these Ren's Souls, and that is Soul Collector. And basically each soul charge gives you an extra max health per charge up to 8 times. Another thing worth mentioning is there are cards that can give you heal when you rend on enemies, which gives you self-sustain and can keep you up in a fight, and is one way that Seris keeps themselves up. Anyway, moving on to her escape. And this again is part of some of the best art in the game, and basically what you do is you wave around your orb, and it takes, I think they said 0.8 to 1 second to charge this up. So it's a channeled ability, so if you get stunned, I think it cancels the ability, and what it does, it takes you into sort of a shadow realm or another dimension for 5 seconds. But for these 5 seconds you can't be attacked, you're invisible, and also you can't attack them or do any healing. So it's got its good sides and its negatives, but the Shadow Realm is something that is pretty insane. It adds this sort of FX of this sort of purple smoke and shroud around the whole game, a bit like Maeve's ultimate does in the game. So what actually makes Seris a healer? Well, actually her right click is a channeled heal, and it does 200 per tick. I think it's a roughly 2000 health. They did say that it was the highest single target heal currently in the game. The interesting thing about this heal is that A, it's channeled, so you can't do anything whilst you're healing somebody, and B, once you lock onto somebody, you can move away from them, and as long as you're in the max range of your heal, you can basically heal them from anywhere, behind a wall, from in the distance. You can basically just heal them up from safety, and that's quite a big deal with this right click. And again, it's got sort of like little ghosts that fly out, or little spirits that fly to your allies. It's actually a very cool animation. Now finally, the big bada boom, the ultimate, what she does is she throws out her orb and it sort of expands and then drags enemies into the center of where the orb is. The range on the drag seems to be quite large, and basically it'll drag all enemies together so that you can yourself put all your soul rend on everybody, so basically fire off all of your attacks and rend everybody, but also say a Bomb King putting their sticky bombs down, a Drogos salvoing into that, or a Victor ultimating into it, or any sort of big damage ultimate going into there is going to basically wreck a whole team and perhaps wipe them. In and of itself, pulling people together isn't that big of a deal, but I think as a team play ultimate and used in combination with other ultimates and other damage and coordinated, this could be a big player in the game. Quite a lot like Dread Serpent is for Maldamba pushing everybody away. It's kind of the opposite, pulling everybody in, but in the same way, it's controlling your enemies. So I already mentioned the Soul Collector legendary card. There are two others. First up, Agony. Basically with your left click and your rend and being able to stack up your soul charges, if you have 4 soul charges on an enemy and you use that rend soul, it will mini stun them for 1 second, which would be very useful in controlling the flow of enemies and being very aggressive with this character and almost filling that sort of mini stun role that Maldamba can have. But I think it's actually a bit more reliable than Maldamba because the aim is much easier to put on the Rend Souls, and you know 100% if you're going to Rend somebody and you see they've got 4 stacks that you'll definitely stun them. The other one is Mortal Reach, and basically it increases the range of Restore Soul by 300% and the duration by 1 second. Now why I said earlier I'm not sure about the heals is because I think they were using that card in this footage because the range on the heal seems to be quite far, and that could mean that the heal in full in total is less. But this is the big heal card, giving you basically max heal, and also, like in the footage, you can go behind a wall quite far away, doing your right click, doing your heal, even after you go out of line of sight and you're in complete safety. The only thing is, do you need to be in that safety, and will the higher level players be picking this up? It's only 1 second extra heals, and compared to that stun, that utility of the stun, it'll be an interesting toss-up to which one is most important. Anyway, just some thoughts on Seris as a character going forward. I think again we see another healer or support champion that is fun to play outside of just healing, and what I usually say is a fun healer to play and what is good, because people will be wanting to play this character because the left click and the damage you can put out is fairly decent. Like you fire them quite fast and you get a lot of hits off, and then you have your Rend Soul to add DPS onto that, so you can be very active in fights alongside healing. And although your heal is channeled and you have to actually click on an enemy and you can't get out of it and attack, it only lasts for a very short period of time, and you have a very heavy burst heal. The heal itself also is pretty damn high, and single targets on your tank or on a single person that's very low does a lot to bring them back to that full health mark or very close to it. And I think this time around, Seris might be one of the main healers, whereas before we only really had the duo, Ying and Maldamba, that had the potential to be the main healer in a game. The Grover was sort of healing but more utility with his cripple, the Pip was sort of flank heal, and the Grok was sort of damage heal, but they were sort of the off healers. But in this occasion as well, I think perhaps the single target heal of Seris could be comboed with the utility of Grover, for example, and the AoE heal that's sort of lighter. I think it's actually a great thing that we might get another main healer here. How useful her shadow travel is, where you go invisible into the shadow realm, because it impairs your vision. You can't actually do anything in it, but it is, I guess, like Grok's shadow travel really. Instead, just it makes you invisible. I guess they're trying to make Illuminate more worthwhile, as adding another stealth champion gives it a bit more value. But how much of a deal it gives being invisible as a healer and being able to flank people, I'm not entirely sure. Obviously, Seris does have a lot of damage, and maybe getting behind enemies and comboing off because all your projectiles travel for enemies, and getting lots of hits off in a big area and a big group of enemies behind lots of people clumped up on a point where they didn't expect you, I guess you could do a lot of damage. And just in general, escaping this way is a surefire way to get out of a fight. As I said before, her ultimate definitely lends itself to some more competitive play and group work, and when a team knows it's coming out so they can be ready with the damage and they can all spam abilities. I guess an Evil Mojo dragging all the chickens together so you can instantly spam them down would also work thinking about another combo. But definitely this is the wombo combo champion, and maybe needs a team that's going to actually utilize it and not just, when they drag them in, there's not a long time where they're actually in the center, so you need that burst to be very quick. Anyway, what does everyone else think about this champion? And again, we'll be playing a bit of her later, and hopefully getting lots of gameplay with her and some fun games, and maybe doing some ownage and getting some good heals out. But what are your opinions? Be sure to let me know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit that like button, dislike it if you didn't, and subscribe for more of my content. I've been Joshino, and I'll see you all next time.